So we're going to start in a minute, but for
Really?
we used to on the picket line. We used to have what we used to call station 1 through 5, and if you got to, we used to call it station 6 and station 7, the places that people hung out if they weren't picketing. So we would always say that we needed people to come back to station 1 through 5. So right now we need everybody back to station 1 through 5. And then I was telling the story that we used to have some picket captains. If you didn't get back to your stations, you got taken off the list for today. So when the word went out that, you know, people were checking back into their stations, we got everybody back very quickly. So hopefully we can get everybody back very quickly right now.
I forgot.
Where's Rick? Yeah.
I forgot about station 6
Yeah.
and 7. That's what we would say if someone was missing.
AGO.
That was too fun.
Yep. So what we wanted to do today is I'm going to introduce the panelists and some of the group who cannot be here today, and then some who have passed on. And throughout the day, you know, and Dee's going to do this evening too, is that we're going to try to use this morning and this evening to celebrate the strikers, celebrate the strikers' families, to remember all the great people who supported and contributed to the great victory at the frontier. And I wanted to start just for the, and we'll have many of the strikers this evening. I know that, you know, they didn't need to come to watch the movie today. It's that they made the movie. So they'll be here this evening. But for the group, you know, the determination and the courage and the sacrifice of the frontier strikers is really what inspired all of us. You know, the leadership, which we're talking about with Dee and John, you know, the legal, you know, Richard Mccracken, the great leaders from the labor movement, you know, Richard Trumka, who Dee's going to remember later this evening, and a lot of the people you saw in this film, is that all of us were inspired to do all that we could and to be the best we could be every day based on what the strikers did. That every day, that no matter what our job was, what our assignment was, it was driven by the frontier strikers. The determination, as I said earlier, their leadership, their resolve never to give in, never to give up, made us all better. And so that's really what, you know, this is about as we celebrate that. Along the way, you know, I do want to recognize, as you know, as John and Dee and others, that as part of the strike, there's so many components that make up the strike. And there's groups and there's people, there's individuals who do extraordinary things, ordinary people. There's ordinary people who do extraordinary things. There's people who do extraordinary things that are never expected. And lots of times, you know, some will remember, some we should be remembering and we miss. And so today, you know, we're going to acknowledge some of that and again this evening. But I first wanted to start about, you know, for the group, about the team in Las Vegas, and a little bit about the history of the team, and to take a little personal privilege here is that, you know, the lead up to the frontier strike, you know, which you know John's going to get into shortly, had its own history about why did we end up at the frontier? Why did we end up with a long strike? But it was rooted in a history of the strikers, the members of this town, the members in the properties. But there's also people who are part of that history. And, you know, one I wanted to, because I see him out there, is my good friend, Bill Grantfield. As many of you, you know, Bill just recently retired. Over 40 years, and I can't tell if Bill's wife's with him today. I think she is, for real. That Bill, in 1984, I mean, Bill, you know, he has traveled the country on behalf of workers his whole life. But Las Vegas has special meaning to Bill, and those of us who worked for Bill, is that in the 1984 strike, and the frontier strikers were part of that strike, which is part of their history. That Bill and Dee and others were sent here, that Bill led that, the difficult thing, and got people through it. So we had the opportunity to continue our fight in the 90s. But a lot probably don't remember is that, when, John assembled, a group of leaders here and, working with the leadership of our union, like President Hanley, Bill led that with Dee. And so when I first came to Vegas, with John and with Bill and Dee, that was my leadership. And all three of them, particularly Bill, who ran and Dee, was determination about rebuilding the union, about what was so important for the members and what we were determined to get. So I do want to, as we did the other evening, congratulate Bill, but he's spent many of the days here. His wife, I think, moved here twice, if I remember. So we want to wish you a great retirement. And I know you'll be back in Las Vegas, but Bill Grantfield is part of the Las Vegas story. Often you don't see his name, you don't see him up on the video, but he is a big part of the Las Vegas story. So I wanted to congratulate Bill. So, and I was saying, and as we introduce the panel, and I'm going to introduce the groups on it, and some who just cannot be here, is I do, for John Wilhelm, who's on the panel, and Dee Taylor, who didn't take a seat up on the panel, is that their leadership during the strike, their leadership, throughout our union, has always been rooted in looking out, for the staff, the organizers that they've trained, that they oversaw. And I've been a great recipient of that, is that as we talk about, what all the different things that it takes to get through the strike, is that leadership makes a difference. And I know many of you who are here today to learn more about the loyalty that they give, which goes a lifetime when you work the group. But Dee and John, they've assembled a team, and during the strike, both for myself and everyone sitting up on this panel, and for every striker, that every day it's always, how are you doing? How are the strikers doing? And how are the members are doing? And that continues to make a difference. And 30 years later, since this is the 30 reunions, that both John and Dee, they still do that. So they will call me and always say, how are you doing? Whatever project we may be on, how are the strikers today? It's Dee. How are the members? What do you need to advance the group forward? And that made a difference to the strike. And as I've often have said, is that on a long strike, and we're not going to capture it all, is that there's obstacles every day. There's problems every day. Some are simple, some are complex, some are critical. And there was always a great ability that, Dee and John, whatever the problem was, they would figure it out so that we could stay on our pathway about winning. So with that, and as I said earlier, Dee, we'll have his, we're speaking this evening, but their leadership and, the continuation of their leadership in Las Vegas has, made this a great union, but also the people they've trained of all the work and all the, local 226 staff and the local 165 staff and all the great shop stewards. It's all rooted in a great leadership program that's always rooted in loyalty and a determination to do what's best for the members. So I wanted to say that and with the group. So as I work down the panel, and and then there's a couple of people who are not here, is that Myrna Preciada, when I first met her, she said she was a server in the old Frontier Margarita restaurant, and was got involved in the organizing committee. We called it the contract committee. Went on to become the picket captain, and even during a time, as a single mother raising her family, in addition to being picket captain, is and doing her picket duty, she went to work at the MGM, got on that organizing committee and, and built the union over at the MGM. At the same time, she was a frontier striker and raising her young daughters who are much older. I think they're here today. So, Miranda. And then, John Wilhelm, as just mentioned before, is that, the overall leader of our strike, the strategy, the bargaining, the negotiations, dealing with all the related issues is John Wilhelm. So he'll have his remarks. And then Heidi Hughes is, the history with Heidi is that from New York, I think she got to Las Vegas when she was 18, 19 or younger with her family. Started off as a bus person in the old Desert Inn. Was involved in 1984. And, as Dee was putting, an organizing team together, as Heidi came out, got on staff, and built committees, and became a leader at the Frontier. And, and throughout her, the next 20 years has continued both various jobs in the union, and today continues to work with one of my assignments in Detroit, as Heidi lives in Detroit. So 30 years later, I'm still working with Heidi. And then Gioconda, which, is a long-term leader of our union in Las Vegas. And Dee was, I think everyone knows, Gioconda is retiring from her position, well-deserved. And we're going to celebrate that throughout the day. And just a quick story about Gioconda. That led to the with her Frontier, but also her what she's done as the leader here is Dee actually, and Kevin, who I was talking about, got organized to get involved with the union. She's a shop steward at the Fitz, and was involved. Came out and got on the organizing strike team. And I remember, I think Gia, if I remember, the first week, Gioconda, came to work for the union officially. She had worked, she was, involved at Fitz. Dee had her and I, we were to go handball at, I think it was the Sands. We're getting in a fight with the new ownership of the Sands Hotel. And Gioconda, I spoke very little, if practically no Spanish. She spoke very little, probably no English. And somehow, we were figuring out how to communicate with each other. So we get to the Sands, and it's just the two of us, and we're leafing on the sidewalk, and a whole group of security officers come out. And this was kind of the beginning of our long fight with Adelson. And this whole group of security officers come out, and you can't be here, you can't be passing out the leaflets. I'm trying to assure Gioconda everything's going to be okay and nothing's going to happen. So, and she probably didn't understand half, or if not anything I was saying. I said, we're just going to stay here. Things are going to be okay. Probably within a minute, both of us are in handcuffs. And so Gioconda's probably wondering, one, why did Dee give her that assignment? Two, how did we end up at the Sands? And for the next, truly, after they handcuffed us and took us aside, they didn't know what to do with us. So they just stuck the two of us in a room, literally for, it must have been 2 or 3 hours, because they didn't know what to do. We're trying to communicate to each other, but Gioconda, during that whole period of time, never backed down, never, wavered. And that was beginning, through her whole time, from beginning to end, and till, just the last day that, at the Culinary Union, was a leader who has never backed down, never wavered, and I think gave, many of the staff that she's hired and recruited the determination and courage about standing up, standing strong, and never giving in. So again, Gioconda's gonna, so both today is a memory of that, but also her retirement. So with that. And then Teresa Mcguire is, as we talk about components of the strike, is Teresa, along with Courtney, who I saw earlier, that, and again, something that John and Dee did is, the importance of understanding, you get into a fight with someone, like, who really are you fighting with? So Teresa, Courtney and their team really ran a very comprehensive research and understanding about the Elardi family, about Las Vegas, which was a very significant component about winning the strike. So today, Teresa's going to talk about some of the research questions. And then Stephen, who I think was a favorite of the strikers in the early morning. I think I see a couple of them is that a number of people every morning would bring Stephen breakfast and treats. So he had one of the better shifts here, and it got to the point on the strike, he would make special requests for people to bring him something. But Stephen every morning got up, 6 a.m., and got the strike going along. And I know he's not here today, but and he's remember he's we used to call him the general, Vince Carreri, who, I think, who ran the picket line that every morning that Stephen and Vince and others who are here today made sure that the picket line was solid for the day. And so Stephen also, as I look down the panel, there's a lot of retirees here that has also retired, but, him and Teresa, they make their home in Detroit, and Stephen continued on. So with that. And then I think everyone in the room knows, Gloria Hernandez. So Gloria, similar is that when I first met Gloria, as a bus person in the restaurant, young family. I think her husband's here today with her, and got involved. Both on the contract committee and the organizing, the picket captain, came on staff, and, is, as Gioconda, many, became a very determined leader. And, Gloria, well, she's been a long strike, is that she's kept, along with all in the Culinary Union, has really kept up the fight with the last family of Nevada. Of leading along with Kevin and many others, the fight against the Fertitta family, which, so Gloria has been, well, we thought with the Elardis, it's that the Fertittas, that's one of the last families of Las Vegas that needs to be defeated. And I know with Kevin and Gloria and all the other great work that everyone does in the union, is that will happen. So with that, and then I did, which there's a couple others that I wanted to just remember, is one, and I believe it's Lonnie Wilkes, that Lonnie, passed away a number of years ago. His wife Karen, I believe she's on, watching this today. That Lonnie was, a great, leader, and ran, the graveyard shift. That along with the Terry and others who really developed, and as Terry pointed out, graveyard picketing in Las Vegas is probably the hardest type of picketing to do. Is you deal with everything, and throughout, the strike is that, Lonnie and Terry and a number of other people kept a group, and they truly stuck together as, every night from 12 to 6, they kept that picket line going through summer, winter, drunks, fights, and all kinds of stuff goes on, at 3 o'clock in the morning in Las Vegas. So they were front and center. And so I wanted to, and again, this evening, we're going to be remembering more, but, Lonnie with that. And then Wanda Matthews, who is going to be here this evening, she will be here. So, Wanda back was a long-term, worked at the Frontier for many years, and as we looked with the group this evening, came to work for the union after the '84 strike, and Wanda, took on probably the most, in the picket line of really being doing all the services, picket pay, so everything that's needed. So I know many of you fought with Wanda. She didn't think you needed more. Wanda fought with many of you. If you didn't have your time in, you had to go see Wanda. I think everybody remembers that. If you had a problem, you go see Wanda, and but she's going to be here this evening. So she too. And so that, with the strike team, I did want to, just reminded me, and I know I tend to get off a little course here. When the last thing when I was talking about, Lonnie Wilkes, is that everyone enjoyed picketing with Lonnie Wilkes, because for those of you who not know Lonnie Wilkes was he was a big guy, both in character but also in strength and height and weight. So that you were pretty safe if if you had a confrontation on the picket line, as long as you were standing next to Lonnie. But with that, it reminded me of a quick story, as I mentioned. Courtney, who, in addition to doing research, is that Courtney was in addition to being the analyst and research, she was a fair striker. Probably was the fiercest. And I don't know if I've ever told this to Courtney directly, but those in the room, is that when Courtney was shot for a picket duty, that some strikers, that was the time to go out on break, because Courtney, we knew, okay, Courtney's going to say something, there's going to be a fight, and since this is being recorded, you'll have to tell that story later. But I also remember, Courtney, that there was a group of strikers who kind of changed their demeanor when Courtney got there, that they what I would call, they got in battle mode. Particularly most of them women, they would change, how they were holding their signs, how they were holding their bags, because they knew, okay, they had to have Courtney's back. But Courtney, you always could expect that by the time Courtney's picket shift was over, there would be a confrontation, and there was. So we'll talk about that later. And then, and the last one who could not make it today is, Richard Mccracken, who, has been a long-term attorney for local 226 and 165, and has been around through the various strikes. Is that as we talk about the different components, and we'll touch on this, and I'm going to get to the questions and the answers, is that Richard too, as all of us, is excelled of figuring out the legal strategy, dealing with all the legal problems that occurred, and his expertise really was no match. And as was pointed out, and for the group as we're learning things this evening, is that having an unfair labor practice strike, which Richard taught us, designing one but winning one, as we get into legal today, gave us a weapon, that throughout that strike, that no one could be permanently replaced, that they could threaten, they could do things, but those were our jobs and they were protected. And that was just one component, of the legal strategy that with Richard, the whole labor and, him working with John and Dee of dealing with all the other legal complexities. And, as said, that, when the strikers went back to work, after being not working for, over 6 years, is they all got their pensions, their pension credits. And that was based on a legal strategy and a legal theory, which made a difference. And then, I was talking, as I was saying about, as we had issues on the strike line, is that, we would end up in the courts quite a bit, for people to take our rights away. And, Richard, along with, Tom Patero, would defend us. both, when with the cops and with, when judges wanted to do things. And Richard too spent every day for 6 years, trying to figure out the legal components and, figuring out particularly, the conduct that the Elardis were doing is how to use that against them, and he did. He was successful at that. And so he could not be here this evening, but, that his leadership, working with the team has made a great difference. And within the group, and is, there's, as I talked about, the team that John and Dee assembled is that, and, and team of the strikers and comments we're here today is that, there was a group of people with the, the long term, and I know some have retired and, some are here today, and to acknowledge them, that, the leadership and the staff during that period of time is that everyone had everybody's back. Everyone had a great trust in each other, but a great friendship, on the team that Dee had assembled, Julie Perlman, Kevin Klein, is that, all, and, Glenn Ornato, who's not here, is that all the work that we did together is that it was all, during the Frontier Strike, they were all doing things, both, to keep the morale up, to keep the strike team going, to do what they could with the strikers being on the picket lines. But that was throughout the whole strike. And again, that goes back to, what I said earlier as a component is that, when you're engaged in a struggle and you have great leadership and you put a great team together, and, that we today, all of us, we became very close as a family. And, and I know today, if a strike was needed and, it's Dee and John, strikers, Kevin, Julie, and all the names that I've mentioned, the staff, that when it's time to show up, Bill Grantfield, it's like we all will still show up today. And so that's, here we want to celebrate that and those memories. And again, there's a lot more, and, Dee's gonna talk about those later this evening, but I just wanted to, as we talk about the questions. So with that, our format, there's some questions that people have asked, and I'm going to call on different panel people, and they're going to add things, and with that. So the first, as we're, learning and relearning, is that, so what caused the strike? Why did we end up on strike? Why did that happen at the Elardis? So the person for that question, of course, is, John Wilhelm, who, led the strategy, the leadership, the contract bargaining, that the whole history in those days. So, John.
Like many of you, I'm sure I found watching that film again. I take it out every 3-4 years and watch it again, but watching it again today is so emotional and so humbling, because to be in the presence of so many of you who were strikers and the strike team really is humbling. Joe's question, or the question Joe relayed from someone here, is what caused that strike? Well, as I look around the room, a good many of you remember the 1984 strike in Las Vegas. Joe referred to this. The 1984 strike in Las Vegas was not a good event. All strikes are tough. That one was demoralizing to the membership. The union got decertified in 6 hotels after that strike. And then we had the Downtown 4 who agreed to the settlement, but never signed it and never put it into effect. The health plan was all messed up. There were all these problems that came out of the 1984 strike, and the confidence of the members of 226 and 165 was very low after that strike. And a lot of things changed and a lot of things happened to restore some of that confidence. Elected new leaders, Jim Arnold and Hattie Candy, God rest their souls, who knew we had to change the union and who were open to working with anybody who wanted to change the union for the better. Getting union recognition at the Mirage, which opened in 1989, that was a really big deal. That was the first new hotel on the Strip in 20 plus years. And nobody in the casino and gaming industry thought that the Culinary and Bartenders Union could organize that hotel, and we did. So that was a confidence booster. And there were a lot of other things that got a little better, but I believe that the confidence of all of us, the members, the staff, everybody in 226 and 165 really took a big leap because of the horseshoe strike. Now, you all remember the horseshoe strike came before the frontier strike. And it seemed long at the time, but it was only, what, 10 months?
9 months.
9 months. Seemed like a long time. And I always say that D. Taylor has the best strategic mind in our union with no exceptions. And I'll give you an example. Gioconda, as Joe mentioned, was working in what was then called Fitzgerald, now called the D. She was a housekeeper. And she was on the internal organizing committee and the negotiating committee. And we took them on and we won. And then we thought, well, who should we go after next downtown? And D. Taylor had the great insight, which scared the crap out of me, I got to tell you. He said, look, John, we can't go with frankly, we picked on the Fitzgerald because it was one of the weaker ownerships. So D said, John, if we keep going after the weaker ones, it's going to take years until we get to the fight that we really have to have. The fight we really have to have is with the Binion family because they're the toughest, nastiest, most murderous family in the entire gaming industry. They own Metro. We have to take them on now. And I said to myself, oh my God. I said to myself, he's right, but boy. So we did. And there's some horseshoe strikers here too. Among them, Ted Papageorge, now a great leader of this union. And we beat the Binions. Nobody thought we would beat the Binions. Ted Papageorge just told me the other day that although he went out, he was a leader of the strike, they all went out. Ted was telling me, we didn't think we could beat the Binions either. Nobody did. But we beat them. We beat them with all the components Joe was talking about. Courageous strikers, smart strategy, great research, actions all over the place. Unions come to support us. And we beat them. And then, as Ted reminded me the other day, almost all the rest of them, the holdout casinos, then fell in line, even the Stardust and the Fremont. And remember, the Boyds had decertified the union after 1984 in California Club and Samstown. But after we beat the Binions, even the Stardust and the Fremont, the Boyd properties, they all fell in line with one exception. That exception was the aptly named Unbelievable Incorporated, Margaret Elardi and Tom Elardi. They said, nope, we're not doing it. So think about that. Every other union casino in town signed the contract that they were supposed to sign, except the Elardi. So as a union, we didn't have any choice. If this union had let them get away with that, as someone said in the film, would have been the beginning of the end. Because people would have said, oh, we thought we were regaining confidence in our union. And the employers would have said, well, we thought we were going to have to deal with that union. But if the Elardis beat us, it would have all gone down the drain. So I want to say to the strikers here and the strike team, I hope that you have at least some small grasp, some small appreciation, some small understanding of what you did. You showed that this union, when it sticks together, can beat anybody at all. And in doing that, you preserved this union. You preserved it. I believe that when people are doing the right thing and they're working together, I think magic happens. And a lot of magic happened in that strike, and it happened because you all stuck together when nobody thought you would. Think about a billionaire casino owner, Bill Bennett, going into his own pocket and buying a food truck and hiring the workers and feeding those strikers 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. When does that happen? Think about Dr. Elias Ghanem. Many of you remember Dr. Ghanem, one of those prominent physicians in Las Vegas. Opened the doors of his clinic, and he said, every frontier striker and every member of their family, just come see me. Don't worry about the charge. Joe mentioned Richard Mccracken, best labor lawyer ever lived, as far as I'm concerned. And he did everything. He did the things Joe said. And remember from the film, another piece of magic was that security guard, Wayne Laguerre, who was supposed to have been a pastor all those years, but he actually found God. And I mean that sincerely. Well, who did he call up? He called up Richard Mccracken. And he said, look, I have some information. Maybe you'll know what to do with it. Well, Richard Mccracken knew what to do with that information, and he did it. And I could go on and on and on. There's always a danger in naming people, because then you don't name all the other people who are equally deserving of being recognized and singled out. But I want to say, for me, every time I watch that film, the thing that sums up not only the fighting spirit of all you strikers and strike team, but the joy that we had when we won, is that scene where Bubba turns around and he gives that beautiful look, and you know we won. So I can't help but mention Bubba, and I take nothing away from everybody else. And I want to mention one other person in the room. I think the first time, and it took a lot of years, but the first time the gaming industry as a whole started to take the Frontier Strike seriously, in my opinion, was the Desert Solidarity March in 1992, which closed down the Las Vegas Strip on a busy Saturday night with 20,000 union members from all over North America. And one person organized all of that, and he's here, Vinny O'Brien. Vinny O'Brien, where are you? Where is he? I know a lot of times I talk too long, and I'm doing it again, but two more things. One of them is, I wish there was a way for us to effectively communicate to the workers in 226 and 165 today what the Frontier Strike meant to them. And I know that there's a bunch of shop stewards here. And I want you to listen to a list of properties that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to tell you why I'm reading them. Luxor, Treasure Island, MGM Grand, Stratosphere, Main Street Station, New York, Bellagio, Mandalay Bay, Paris. 23,000 pre-pandemic, 23,000 members of our union worked in those places, and they're still working. The pandemic's hopefully coming to an end, but 23,000 people. You know what those properties have in common? They were all organized during the Frontier Strike, and I'll tell you why they got organized. Did we have card check agreements? Yeah, we did. We fought for them. We got them. Did we have great organizers? Yes, we did. Did we have tremendous participation from shop stewards and other union activists to organize those places? Yes, we did. But you know why they got organized? Because those companies looked at the Frontier Strikers, and they looked at the backing the Frontier Strikers got from our union and all the unions, and they said to themselves, we better cooperate. We don't want to go down that road. So everybody that works in those casinos, today may not know it, but they have a great debt of gratitude to the Frontier Strikers that they work in a union house without having to go on strike in those places, and they have membership in and protection of the union. To me, if somebody were to say to me, what's the one greatest thing that came out of the frontier strike out of all the great things? That's it. We unionized the exploding Las Vegas Strip because of you. And here's the last thing I want to say. Joe Doherty is, as we all know, the most modest, unassuming human being that I've ever known. Never brags, never blows his own horn, never puts himself forward. The longest speech I've heard him give is the one he just gave. And he was funny too. I never knew that. But the thing that makes me feel really good about this whole day is the fact that Joe's son, John, is here. And John had never been in Las Vegas till now. Although I understand his mother was pregnant with him, and so I guess in that sense he was here, but he don't remember it too well. And I know that John and his brother Joey quite well, and I know they respect and admire their father. But I bet you that John has never heard the whole story of what Joe has done in the horseshoe and in the frontier and in all the things that we all worship Joe for. I bet he's never heard it because Joe never blows his own horn. So I'm so happy that John has been here this week and particularly today to learn what an extraordinary man Joe Doherty is. What we all know, his son now knows.
Papa Yo.
That's right.
Papa Ho.
So, thank you, John. Since we're on family and the struggles and the kids, one which I was going to have Gloria and Myrna talk about is that what it meant for our families, the bonding, our kids, the struggles that every striker went through, the sacrifices of to share some of those. The one, there's a saying in Detroit, it's called Detroit First Everybody. And I think we know when we talk about family and the Culinary Union and the bartenders and the staff and the strikers is that what developed over that period of time was a family where, the frontier strikers, it was, when it had to be, it was the frontier strikers first everybody. And we had our own issues every day, just as a good family does. But when it was time to, keep focus, everyone was together. But that was really rooted in people's families, people getting to know each other. I believe we had 17 different languages spoken out on strike. People got to know each other, people worked together. And I thought, that just share a little bit about that. With that, I did want to, as we get into the family and what it meant is kind of both today, Mrs. Landsberg is here. So Bob Landsberg, who, just passed away 7 months ago. And I'm glad he, continued to, he had, along with his wife, had RSVP to come to our event in September. So his wife is here today, and that, recognize Bob and his wife, but it was an example of how important the families were during the strike and how we got to know each other and what it meant when, people's husbands and wives or kids went to their picket lines. But they came, I know Gloria will talk about it. A lot of kids I got to know in their strollers. Today I've seen a couple of them, they're taller, smarter, wiser, grown up, But I do, as we talk about families and, thank you for coming and, and we're going to share more about Bob's and the, other struggles who've passed away, their memories. The one thing, as I talked about, just give an example of Stevens, that at nighttime, a lot of the pickers like to picket with Bob, and the reason why is that Mrs. Landsberg would always send him to the picket line with goodies, a lot of baked goods. So, so he was a favorite to be, but also, just with Bob, but as is many with the strikers, and again, to share with, is that we all got to the frontier from different places and, different beliefs, different languages, different past struggles. Bob particular, but his is just one of many stories. Had immigrated from Eastern Europe, ended up in Brooklyn, New York, came to Las Vegas, I think that, became a striker, kept that strike line going, moved, as John gave the example, and then continued until he passed as a long-term banquet server at the Bellagio Hotel. And often we talk about the Las Vegas story, but a lot of people's stories go through, the Culinary Union and the struggles, and that's what makes us. So that's, I'm going to let Gloria and Myrna spread, but families and our kids and our relationships makes a difference. So Gloria and Myrna, you want to talk about some of that and all and I got a follow-up question.
I wish I could. Do I have an hour? I just kidding. I know many of you guys are asking, especially I see a lot of shop stewards here. How did we survive? What make us feel so strong? I don't want to see Gio because he made me cry. We survived. We did it because we have great leaders. Joe is, you know how Joe is. He didn't have a day off in 6 years, 10 months, and all that time. Gio, she was a general, a real one, okay? She showed me how to walk and talk like a leader. We survived because we knew that that was the right thing for our family. I knew I was gonna be there, like Heidi said before, probably the last one, but I wasn't gonna give up until we won, because I knew in my heart we was gonna win, because it was the right thing. And I know a lot of people was waiting, other hotels, for us to give up. Not one striker went back. And I want this for these shop stewards who are here, who is gonna be our future for our union. You guys gonna be right there in the camera, because you guys gonna be those heroes fighting for the union and never give up, because you guys have great leaders. You guys are the leaders or the members, shop stewards, like we have in our strike. We survive. Our kids play right there in the grass. Security kicked us out of there. They didn't let them eat. I have a few fights, decent fights. Not too decent, some for. But we lost because of the example that we have. And I knew, me and my co-strikers, that is so nice to see you guys here. We always talk about it, winter, hot. Sometimes it was so cold. I was telling my daughters, sometimes it was so cold. And then there was Joe. It's not that cold. In Alaska, it's worse. Oh my God, it's so hot. We need some more watermelon, Baba. No, there's Gio. It's not that hot. There's other places it's better. So it was always an answer that no way out. But they teach us, they did teach us that just keep going. Gio, we have so many memories that people spit on her face. And I was so upset. I'm a striker. And I tried to stop, and Gio said, Myrna, stop, hold your picket sign, and keep walking. Imagine how hard that is. I saw Joe people running after him on fights, and stand up, clean up his pants, and keep going. And at the beginning of the strike, I was like, something wrong with these people. They're from some out of place or something because they keep going and going. I didn't understand. Every rally that we have, there was detailer, 1 day longer. And I'm like, 1 day longer, but for reals? Because honestly, I mean, 6 years, 4 months, and 10 days. That's why we have so many babies on the strike. A lot of time to kill. Hi, Alma. So 1 day longer, and 1 day longer, and we knew that we was gonna be there 1 day longer. We knew. This is for the shop steward that I see faces here. You are the future. We're gonna have a union. We're always gonna have a union, but it's always gonna be a fight. You know, companies always wanna take away, but we have leaders, like my leaders that we have. You guys are the leaders in the hotels, and the members are gonna follow you because you guys are the future. I just wanna say that I have the opportunity to be here because you guys are the future of this union. And to all my strikers, brothers and sisters that were here, it's so emotional that we still feel the same thing that we feel when we was on the streets. It's just looking at the video, it's just memories. They know, only we know. You guys know the history. John and Joe, everybody talks about it, but we know what we went through, and we always say, we'll do it again. I'm too old now. But I will do again everything that I can, like you guys shop stewards are doing it. So I think that's my little bits of part that I want to say here.
Good afternoon. I just want to recognize my brothers and sisters for the frontier. Because I saw some of these, they come in wheelchair, some of those with cane, but they never give up. They are here. Thank you. Thank you for this moment I remember the beginning. I might be crazy wear this t-shirt with those buttons, but one of the things as a human, I believe in helping my life, never forget your beginning. Never forget your beginning when you start. So I started working at the frontier in 1988. I can tell you, October. And then I was so happy. My husband used to work, paid $200 every paycheck and medical insurance, $400 a month in 1988. So when I started working, my husband said, I don't care how much you make, the soon we have medical insurance, and wonderful. I saw those people fighting so hard for this medical insurance. Never give up, guys. So we start working, and 1 year we saving the money to give you the down payment for our house that I still live over there. Thanks to God, and thank you for this union. And thank you for my coworkers. So, but it was wonderful 2 years working with a great medical insurance. And then strong people, millionaire people, they say, I'm not going to sign the contract. And I remember when they put on the table, sign whatever insurance you're able to pay according what you want to get, right? And I saw turn up behind, and I saw some of my coworkers, like I can say Eddie, Triana, many of those people that you might be remember, they now with us physically, but it's in our heart, all those people. So, and I said, okay, it's time to make decisions. And I saw, and this is the time that I meet Gio, and start to make big decisions. I never go back, guys. After you taste the good things you have, be a union, never give up. So, and we decided to be organizer. I was pregnant. And Without my coworkers, with other strikers, never, never we gonna make this happen. Again, thank you guys. So for them. So when we start organizing, like I believe like a month later, 4 weeks after, the frontier, they don't let to go any organizers. So we've been organizing live at the stations, like kind of undercover. But good example, and I again recognize the team, with including D right there. This is the leaders who teach like talk and walk. Talk and walk. So they lead by example. So we organized, and I remember the last meeting, we're going to have to make the decision. And I told Gio, I'm not able to be there in the meeting because the doctor said my baby is gonna born anytime. And I say, Chop Stewart, when you gonna bring in almost the ending, I say, okay. And you know, like we see Gio for years over here, they say, Gloria, the ambulance stop at the Union. You have to be there. So, and now maybe at this time I can be upset with her because I say, she don't understand that I'm gonna have my baby anytime. And I can like be upset, but just be patient. And I say, and I say, you coworkers believe in you because we see each other. And honestly, they can tell you over here, we love from the heart. We love the work, the frontier striker from the heart. No matter what color, what race, we was only one, and we are only one until today. So I was there, and she said, you have to be there. So I was there, and my daughter born 2 weeks before the strike. And the time they came over here, but every person, and I can tell about the leadership, Stewart, organizer, every person has one thing to make big decision in your life. At this time was by my family. And for sure, you make the decision, and I recognize any of my coworkers break the line. Nobody returned to work until we won. And I can tell you this. At this time at the frontier, people make good tips. Was Siegfried and Roy over there, was before the Elardis. Before the Elardis. And then, so I recognize no matter as a kitchen worker, cook, GRA, porter, bartenders, cocktails, make big decision. No, they don't think how much they can lose, how much they can win. And thanks to them, thanks to everyone, that's why this union keep running and strong. Never give up. Never give up. So we think I was there when Horseshoes was on a strike, and I saw the first civil disobedience in my life. You saw part of this in the video. I was so impressed for me when I saw those people, but God, I believe, was preparing to me because I was to be next. So, and I believe I was always, they have sandwiches, bologna sandwich right in the picket line. I used to go when there's Horseshoes, I used to go because the union, if we go into work like, I believe like 4 hours a month, they return like $7.50. This is the struggle we had. So I was with my 2 kids at this time for Horseshoes, and never forget about those bologna sandwiches that we always have over there. Thank you, because part of the union. But I'm gonna tell you a story. So when we gonna strike, we think it's gonna be like 9 months for them, but this tends to be, I don't know who they work come from, 1 day longer. 1 day longer, tomorrow's another day, 1 day longer. This is like kind mentor for us. And until today, as a personal too, whatever incident happened, 1 day has to be better than tomorrow. So that's the time, 1994, I was 3 years on a strike. I just applied to become a citizen. So I had my interview was December 8th, never forget, 1984. You know, for those people that we are immigrants, when we go to there, they ask for the history about the United States. So when the immigrant, they start to ask me a question, the first question, are you still on a strike? But this time was 3 years. And I say, yes. It would become like normal life for me to be in a strike. So, and he say, do you think you guys gonna win? Yes. Very sure that we're gonna win. How long they gonna take it? I don't know. Then, okay, sign over here. How you going to put it? No more question. They might be thinking this person is a hard-headed. So, and then I swear to become a citizen in March 1995, guys. So the good thing, I really very thankful for all this leadership, all my coworkers at the frontier, and all the person like organized 20,000 people to come out when we was on a strike. Those things, people they bring over here, they make us energy. They make us survive over there. They make us to continue to go. So thank you for bartenders, kitchen workers, everyone we can mention over there, and many people, they not here. They not here, but they are in our heart. For those, Gio is already retired, congratulations, Steve too. So, and so that's wonderful, wonderful people. One day we're gonna do the same thing. And John Wilhelm, I always say, my mother teach me that your eyes is a window for your soul. And can I say, hopefully I don't offend him, but I feel like he is like our grandpa. Not about the age. It's about the one way for another one. They give you motivation. It's not disrespect, you know, everyone is part of you guys. So for those, my part was my kids. My kids, when we end in the strike, you know, thank you to this union, we always celebrate Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, never miss any food in our table for those celebrations, because they carry us, they teach us, they make us the people that we are, like every one of us. I just want to end in to say thank you very much. I really appreciate, and until today, to see this movie, it's not like it's a real life. It's a real story. It's the struggles. And always I heard this word for the union, guys. This union is building by sweat, tears, blood. I only can say, don't give up. Those that are new over here as shop steward, don't give up. Don't let those big companies beat us. We are more strong than them. We don't have the money, but we have the power together. Never give up.
Thank you. So there's a couple more general questions, but I wanted to leave some time from from anyone out in the group for questions. But one, which is serious for Gioconda and Stephen and Heidi, is the day-to-day life on the picket line, dealing with all the problems, the arrests, maintaining picket lines, dealing with customers, is to spend some time on that and the shifts and all the different things that kind of go into picketing and striking for 6 years. So they're the experts on it.
Heidi?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the fun shift, the night shift. That's where all the action was. Yeah, it's funny. it's funny to this day, when I see a zip tie, I don't see a zip tie, I see a handcuff. Because everyone else who goes to a hardware store sees a zip tie to tie cords up. I see them as handcuffs. When the cops do mass arrests, they don't have enough handcuffs, so the plastic things. And they hurt worse than handcuffs, by the way. I just remember just reminiscing. It was very emotional to see to see the video with the strikers and so many people that we've lost. And I'm so glad that I was able to be here today and we'll be able to talk with folks and who I haven't seen in so many years. But there were so many times on that picket line. I was just thinking in some stuff that you can't put everything in the film. Remember when that idiot John Elardi built the wall? Built that little brick wall out there?
Yes.
That bought us 3 years right there. When people had to get other jobs and still come out to the strike line, we could sit there. Remember? Remember that idiot, they always made stupid mistakes like that. The other thing that I remember on the evening shift, I think we had the most fun. The morning shift, I don't know, it wasn't as much action. But you know, I mean, I hate to say it, it was hard out there sometimes, but I was excited to get out there every day, which is, maybe I'm crazy. Some people would say that, but it was, I mean, I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen. It was never boring. There are so many things that went on out there. I'll just remember when, again, John Elardi used to come out and taunt the strikers all the time. And our shift came up with the answer to it. I don't know if Tommy's here. Tommy Saunders came up with the idea that we would burn the Elardis in effigy. Of course, Joe put the kibosh on that because the fire department would have a problem with it. But we did hang them in effigy. If you remember the gallows, no one's talked about the gallows, and we hung the 3 of them. We never seen his stinky butt out there again after that. When we hung them in effigy, he didn't come back. And that was fun. There was a lot of fun stuff that went on out there. I was just thinking and seeing Eddie and Sonia again. And I remember that people would just taunt us out there. And, you know, I would just always make up stuff like someone called the fashion police. It's a felony in progress. Because we couldn't hit them most of the time. So we just had to taunt the people crossing our picket line. I just remember one incident where these California tourists in this big, like 2,500, truck came out with their big margarita glasses. You remember those damn margarita glasses? And they kept taunting us. And we found a use for those old batteries from the bullhorns that actually did not, that didn't work anymore. And I just remember one that was like the Kennedy bullet, the assassination. It hit 2 of those, and they kept coming back and forth in front of the picket, and taunting us on the picket line. It got 2 of them with one go. Now I think the statute of limitations is over, so I might be able to say the story. But yeah, Eddie remembers what I'm talking about. It was like it hit the front guy and the guy in the back. They never came back. But anyway, we had a lot of fun stuff going on. I remember having to tell the cops, they come and question us all the time. Oh, I don't know. I remember one of the strikers, Patrick, who never wanted to carry a sign, but at one time it came in handy. Some guy came out there and squirted us, with one of those, those water guns. And it was cold out there and we were all wet, and the strikers did not like it. There was a melee. That guy was missing most of the hair on his head. But luckily, we were able to, I was able to say, yeah, some tourist was walking by, because he never carried a sign. And he just didn't think it was right, that the guy was squirting the strikers like that. So yeah, there was crazy times out there on the picket line. And I know that John and Dee and the movie talked about Rich Mccracken, and he was wonderful about not getting an injunction on the picket line. Yeah, I mean, someone who wasn't like, people that you think about, because Harry Reid, who recently passed, who was so supportive during our strike and other strikes, but also Myron Levitt, who never joined the picket line, because, the Elardis kept on, as opposed to Jack Binion, who just sent his thugs to rough us up most of the time. you know, and have the cab drivers and the big cowboys with the guns intimidating us, is that the Elardi family kept going to court to try to get us enjoined. And so we couldn't have a picket line. And Myron Levitt didn't let it happen with, of course, Rich Mccracken and legal team and everything. And our strength with the union and our friends that were elected officials. There was so much that just comes through my mind about the strike. I just remember how crazy it was before they banned the glass on the strip on New Year's Eve. That was a scary night, New Year's Eve. There was missiles, those glasses flying us out there. There was some crazy times out there, but we were a family. We are a family. We went through things that probably very few people in history through together over so many years. And I just want to thank all the strikers that hung out there. And I want us to remember the ones that are no longer with us, but as Gloria says, are in our hearts. It's very emotional watching that video with so many people who are gone, including Richard Trumka, which is a great loss to all of us, and my friend Lonnie, and all the folks that are gone. It's just sad. And Bob Landsberg, who we just had many a talk about New York and Russia and Poland and all that stuff. I don't want to leave anybody out, but we did have a lot of fun out there, and it was crazy. And we changed the course of Las Vegas, and I think we had an impact on the labor movement in general. So thank everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Gioconda, just for those who've not noticed it, well, we all had different shifts, is that Gioconda, took on the leadership, had both the good and the bad. So we used to kid each other, but during the summer, as it's out to 110 and 115, is that, the group that Gioconda led, every, late morning throughout the afternoon to the early evening, in the hot weather, and keeping that group together was Gioconda. And again, she had an advantage on a day like today, for those who are picketing graveyard. But, that's just another factor of picket life in Las Vegas is the weather. And just think about that for, as I think Gloria pointed out, for 6 hours a day, for 6 years, 4 months of a group of people led by Gioconda, who out in the hot sun through every summer. So, but there's a lot to be told about Gioconda. I think also some stories about the hot sun. You always got and I see a few out there. Part of a job of the picket captains and the strike leaders is finding people who tend to leave the hot sun. So we had, we had some stations where, I think, Gioconda would have to, along with Lee Davis, they would know where people went. They always knew where you went, Andre. So but go ahead, Gioconda.
Well, first things I had to say, Joe never is hot. For Joe, it never is hot. First thing he said to us, we can have violence. We can have violence at the picket line. We can have violence at the picket line. To me, Steve, to all team. And okay. Well, first month, and we had humongous fight where we block the entire strip, and all the strikers go there and fight. Some of the strikers didn't even know each other because some work in the morning, some work in the afternoon, some work in the graveyard, and some strikers, they even were fighting each other in the middle of the street. And we're wrong. And I trying to separate everybody, and I can't, but we bring, I saw everybody come back and the people wrong to the rest of the street. We had the police coming, and we had one guy, we put in no neck. Remember no neck? We always say this guy, the cop, no neck. He always go, remember no neck?
No neck.
And no neck always told Steve, because Steve was so nice with him. And he always said, the two witches that you have here and your chief was Heidi and me. Steve, I said, why are you so nice with this guy? They're so mean with us. The strikers, it's very hard to describe. I'm telling you, every time I'm thinking, I know the strikers, and they know all us, because in the beginning, we don't know much each other, only the committee. because the Lardis kicked me up after 3 days in organizing. I had to meet the strikers in the picket line. And I know the bartenders, the cocktail, they take care of the entrance over there. Here we had the group, the guest room attendants, and they walk together, and the different groups, they work together in the beginning. And you have different ethnic groups, Asian, and you have African Americans and Latinos and white. And I don't speak English that well in that time. And I say, oh God, what are you gonna do? But you know what? I had to communicate with these people, and I had to know them more because I know only the committee a lot. But day by day, we bonded as a family. And sometimes they get mad at me. They get really mad at me. And I'm okay with that. We had the book where they had to sign in and sign them up. And the cops come in sometime, and nobody in the other entrance and took our picket signs, and I was upset because the security took our picket signs and the cops not do anything. We have a lot of fights over there, because when it got hot and somebody tell you get a job, come on, you're fighting for dignity. And somebody get a margarita and throw in your faces. The strikers, took a lot. They took a lot of sins. And the cops, they never was on our side. They never was on our side. But the strikers, they grow so strong every day, and more strong every day, and more strong every day. And what's hard to control, when somebody want to fight. People, they was nasty with them, nasty with us, and throw sins in the faces, water, and all that stuff. But the picket captains we have, they was amazing picket captains because they helping us to control the picket line more. And people it's 170 degrees. Remember we have the clock at the Sahara? And when they drive to the picket line, the first thing I heard from somebody who walking in the line, it's 117 degrees today. I don't want to hear that. I say, guys, we have water, we have popsicles, we're going to have watermelon, we're going to do a lot of things. There is spirit and that heat was very strong. And the scenes they went through, sometimes they bring their kids. I had to tell you, when they go, the kid, they get out from the school, people, they don't have money to pay for healthcare. And I meet a lot of kids on the picket line. And the kids there, they did their jobs too. Because they know me, and I start to know them more. And I say, hey, this one, and this one gonna be there. You can tell me when they did or when they not. And they come back to me, Gio, they went to the fashion show mall. and then when they come back, and that was a little group come to the fashion show mall, then come back. And I say, you guys was in the fashion show mall. No, you didn't even see us. You was in the other entrance. No, you was in the fashion show mall. Look at all your makeup and perfume you have. We have situation, we have good days, bad days. Well, Alba laugh a lot because we have some things where they lead into that. But the strikers, they took care of the union. They took care of the union. And they no was thinking anymore about their family. They no was thinking anymore about me. They were thinking more about the city. Who's gonna be here? And they want to destroy the union. And they come up to be the incredible warriors who always gonna have them in my heart. I love all of them. All of them. I know every one of them. I walk with them in the picket line, and they come to me and talk to me, and I talk to them, and we laugh, we fight together. We fight a lot of fight together, but we stick together. Nobody can touch one striker. Nobody. You can see two strikers fighting, they don't talking each other. But if somebody tried to hurt that striker, all the strikers coming with their picket sign to get ready to take their business. And that was the strike in my chief. You know, that was a tough chief. But incredible rally.
I just like to take this time to tell strikers, particularly the ones that I was with during the time that I was out there in the daytime, is that every now and then I'll think about you guys and gals. Something will spark something, and next thing I know, I'm thinking about, you know, whether it's Bubba or Slick Rick or whoever. So I just want to let you guys know that. And one of my takeaways from the strike is the relationships that we all built to make this thing end up the way it ended up. And I still think to this day, I think that we had the right group of folks, which is you guys and gals, for the right job that we had to do. And we did it. That's all I would like to say. Thank you.
About the kids spoiled with big burritos and tamales.
Burritos, tamales, and atol to Steve.
Yeah, Stephen ate good out there.
Yeah,
Just gonna say. All those ladies took care of Stephen.
yeah.
All the strikers. They fed him good every day.
Just as we're gonna do this, we're gonna end right at 1 today. So there's one more general question, but I want to leave a little time for if there's any questions from the group. But after, there's gonna be lunch out, box lunches out in the outside this room. But and then all of us, you know, who those want to continue talking about the strike will questions, all of us will be there. And then this evening, you know, we're gonna have spend several hours together. You know, with our members, but just a quick follow-up. There's a question, you know, for Gio and Stephen about dealing with arrests on the picket line. You know, that was a significant part at times, as Gio was describing. Just quick, I do believe, Gio, that, you know, whether intentionally or unintentionally, one time you had your husband arrested. I don't know. So if you,
No, that was the fall.
Yeah.
I had to.
That was his fault. I know they've been debating this for the last 23 years, so you should set the record straight, Gioconda.
You know, that was the fall. I
Go
had to
ahead.
tell you. You know, D come to the picket line, you know, with his shorts. And Glenn come to the picket line, you know, and Kevin. The three of them, they tough and the bullhorn. They tough at the bullhorn. We know the cops will take the bullhorn from us. They will. You guys know, all the strikers know. When we start be so, and they see, they will, and they have a holiday when the is busy, they try to, we not be so effective, I think. And there is and Glenn and Kevin. And I say, guys, you will see, they're gonna come, the cops. And they know they're gonna come. Well, they took Glenn and Dee and Kevin and putting inside in the parking lot. Then Glenn and Dee figured out they're gonna get out, you know, with the cops, you know, and then they holding Kevin because they knew Kevin is my husband too. And then they come to me, the cops come to me and say, if you remove your bullhorns today, we're letting him go. And I say, no. I say, no, we're gonna keep the bullhorn in the line. Well, he's gonna be arrested. I say, no, well, we're gonna keep the bullhorn in the line. And then it's Kevin in handcuffs and they took him out. Well, I had to tell you, it was Friday night, Friday in the afternoon, and Kevin was very upset. Very upset. He said, I can't believe you let me go. I said, I can put all the bullhorns down. I will not. But that was Steve who figured out, you know, but that's happened. and Kevin continues to say you sent me to jail, but
So. As Gia was saying, that after a period of time, is that we got to the point, just on arrests and other problems on the picket line, when truly we're negotiating with the cops about like what the penalties are for doing things. And sometimes we made deals, but that particular thing, someone had to go. So, that she kind of, that's her negotiated position, but she held her ground in the bullhorns. But, and then the other, just another quick on the arrests is that, Stephen and Heidi, some will talk about this later, not on camera. They were the most confrontational with the police department and things. So I still remember one day with Stephen on arrests and dealing with the cops that I know Stephen, Teresa, I think it was actually their anniversary, and they had plans to truly like leave town and to have a couple days off. So right at the end of Stephen's shift, I'm Kim there, it gets in a confrontation with a police officer, truly, and this is the truth, that he was standing, there was a police officer, and this was an occasion that's happened more than in things. A police officer, a customer, and some strikers. And these two customers punched a striker right in front of a police officer. And the police officer, and did nothing. So Stephen, even though, he's about to, head out for today, he went up to the cop and said, well, that's not right. That's battery. And so I think Stephen thought this one out quite completely. So Stephen, he was trying to demonstrate, he goes, so if I went up and, smacked someone, does that mean I get off too? So Stephen truly went up and smacked the guy who had smacked the striker. And he didn't get the same response for the police officer. He got arrested. But then I had, and it's just how we had to deal with things. I still remember this day of having to, call Teresa up, say, Teresa, Stephen's not going to be home for a little bit today. So that was, but dealing with the police department over a period of time, there was all, I see Terry was one of their fan favorites, and Heidi with that. But it was, it was just part, and, dealing with, which is really, some of it's some things of understanding is that, the picketing from the strikers and everyone, the shop stewards, the things is that of the power of that. But it really was combat every day. Again, things may be different, a lot of, but it really, of keeping customers out, that it was just more than walking around. It was constantly people engaged you for different reasons. And, but it was, we did well. And one of the reasons we're well is that, well, we dealt with the arrest, we dealt with the problems with that. But again, and then we did have our plan, civil disobedience. The last one that came up, and I do want to save a couple minutes for questions, was, how did, as a group of strikers, deal with, all the financial challenges? Because, making decisions. And, one was multiple things. Is that none of us, the strikers themselves and the families, it's a great sacrifice of doing, being committed to a cause and doing all the things that were needed. And they ran the gamut, people picking up extra work, cutting on things. But as a union, something John and Dee had taught us, from the beginning, is that as a union, when a group of workers are struggling, is that we will never, Unite Here or any union, ever be in a position that an employer could starve, what Dee would often say, that no one's going to get starved back into work, that we would always have to figure out ways. And at times, the sacrifices were great, but also the there was extraordinary things that the group did, and there was creative things. And we're going to talk a bit more about this evening with the group, but I just wanted to highlight that there was extraordinary people in the community and extraordinary people in the labor movement to always find the resources, whether it was how to pay rent checks, how to get food. And I just wanted to highlight a few for the group, who may not be aware of this history, is that, for, through the work of the union, just on health benefits and families, that John was able to, work with the trustees of the fund, that a lot of strikers who had insurance were able to continue for 6 years, by other members and other employers agreeing that, we will figure out how to have health care. But there was a significant amount of people who did not have health care, had families. And, in the history of Nevada, who, has quite the histories, Dr. Elias Ghanem, that, who was a prominent physician, had clinics and did things, stepped up. And, this is when extraordinary, that from the first day of the strike made a commitment that if someone did not have insurance, someone didn't have the monies to get, pharmacy drugs, whatever was needed, just go see him and he would figure it out. And truly for 6 years, people and their families went to see him, and I think he became kind of the general practitioner and a coordinator, is that either he or others delivered babies, got, people needed surgeries, he would find doctors who would give that, if people needed pharmaceutical, if he had to negotiate with, and that was an extraordinary things when you talk about, of how to get a group of workers through that. Another one wanted to highlight is, which was both a true, economic support, but a true message to the Las Vegas community is, one of the legendary leaders of the gaming industry and ownership was Bill Bennett, who was the owner of the Circus and eventually the Sahara Hotel. And, he, was one, John had established a relationship with, and, the history. And, as we got too close to the, being on strike a year, and there was that he, stepped up, to send a message to Elardi. He said he made a commitment that no one was going to go hungry on that strike line. And if came out to the strike line, and for over 5 years, now he probably never thought this, but that he sent food, 3 times a day, so anyone could have, make sure they had a hot meal, the strikers at the frontier. And not only that was kind of, a symbolic gesture, but it also showed the extraordinariness of, people in the industry, both sending a message, but also when seeing someone's cause as the frontier and the struggles to do something. And so, as kind of the history of Las Vegas, we probably will never see people like that again, to have a medically, doctor step up, a casino owner that just said it. They didn't want any attention about it. They didn't want any credit about it. He just wanted to do it. And that made a big difference. And then through the work of Dee and John and others, that, raising significant amounts of monies, from unions, from, and that was done, so we could always have a solidarity fund. The other, which we all will always remember is that, and I know the international president was on it, but the United Food and Commercial Workers is that, they made sure at every major holiday and any other time there was a request, and, the local, in Las Vegas and through the International Union, would, every holiday for 6 years, Thanksgiving, Christmas and Easter, as much food, people wanted, they would have food baskets, and they did that. And so it shows that, as Dee often points out, that, when we stick together as a union, that we will always figure that out. But there is a great sacrifice that we did, but there's always groups willing to press through that. And then, through, we had picket pay, we had, with that, we've raised money, with that. But everyone did, different things to, get through it. But again, there's more, there's a lot about, that component, but it was comprised of, as we would often know that, unions were coming to town and, that just of raising money. And that is something that the power of the union and the power of solidarity with that. So that was just one less financial. I think there's some more questions. We're going to wrap up. I think it's 1 o'clock now. I was hoping, but if there's other questions, just, or we're just after you get your box lunches, just grab any of us on the panel and we'll do that. And then tonight, we have a reception. We'll continue our conversations with that. And we have quite a program this evening, and a lot more of the strikers. So we'll talk more about the, some of the things we talked about earlier today. So again, thank you.